Welcome to the Steady On Stronger Together podcast. I am your host, Angie Bauman. Today's episode is a book discussion on A Long Time Comin by Robin W. Pearson. And Lisa, Maria, and I were thrilled to be able to talk about this memorable story with Robin herself. The main character in A Long Time Comin is Granny B, a woman we all developed a deep admiration and appreciation for as the story unfolded. We chat with Robin about Granny B and the other characters, about the idea of owning our own heritage and stories, and what it looks like to be imperfectly living out our faith. I know you'll love Robin just as much as we did. Let's listen in.
Yeah.
Good evening, Steady On friends, and welcome to a virtual book club discussion with author Robin W. Pearson. Robin, we are so delighted to have you this evening. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. I have so been looking forward to talking with you. We have really enjoyed your book this month. Robin's debut novel is A Long Time Comin, which we are, I know Maria has the large print. That's all right. So I'm Angie Bauman, and I'm joined by my book loving friends of 20 plus years, right? I told Robin when we were talking about setting this up, I'm like, Lisa and Maria and I have been reading together for over 20 years. And
Wow.
it's, I know. We're
you started reading when I started writing.
Yeah. Well, we want to talk to you about that, because writing something is such a journey. I know that it is. So I know it is. It's as you get to know the characters. Well, I want you to tell it. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to your journey of getting this book. But I'm Angie, and I'm joined by my friends Lisa and Maria always waves when I say Lisa. And no, I just kidding. And Robin is with us. And
square on my
I know. Well, it looks different on everybody's screen, right? We're not in the same boxes, so you think, yeah. So, so we're going to talk about Robin's book tonight. And Robin, tell us just a little bit before we get started, if you will, just about yourself and your family. And because I know that your family it's large and busy, I think, from what I've read about you. So yeah, we want to hear about you, just a little bit about who you are.
A little bit. Well, we're a homeschooling family of 9, although we've graduated 2 so far. And 5, we're still, like I tell everybody, torturing here at home. And they range from 8 to 23. And my oldest daughter actually just returned from college, so she's back in the fold right now. And we live in North Carolina. We've moved up and down the East Coast, and we finally landed back home. And we have a dog named Oscar, who is loved by all. Mm-hmm. And I've been writing. I've been editing for a long time. I started right out of college with Houghton Mifflin, and I wanted to have a career where I could be at home with the kids, and God blessed me with that opportunity. So, and that's when I started writing.
So have you written and edited from home?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have. Yeah.
Maria had it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Robin. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I edited for Houghton Mifflin there in the office, and then we moved from Boston to Florida. Mm-hmm. And then I started my freelancing career, and I started writing for a family magazine and editing for some school publishers. And I worked for another magazine that was based out of Charlotte, and the Lord just brought opportunities where I could work from home. It was hard. And there were some years where I had to put my career, on hold, and put the book aside and other things aside to focus on homeschooling. But that's what I've been doing. So
yeah, Maria had something she wanted to ask. I think
say, there's a good chance that I have read some of Robin's work in my profession. I teach. And so Mifflin's a very well-known, mm-hmm. So there's a good chance I unknowingly came across some of your writing and editing.
Well, when I was working for Houghton Mifflin, I was an editor. So teachers were writing and we were editing what they produce. I worked for social studies department and the math department. So if you've taught those things, then maybe so.
Yeah, Maria's taught first grade for 127 years. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's good. That's good. So if you will, Rob, and I want to mention this. Robin has recently won, is that the right word to use? Been awarded the Christy-award for the best debut novel of 2020. Is that right? Do I have that right? Yes. So congratulations on that. On that well-deserved acknowledgement. I just think that I think I think this book, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. I know you wrote maybe in your author notes or something just about your appreciation for this publisher kind of taking a chance on something different. And maybe before we even get started on the heart of the book, would you just talk to us a little bit about that publishing journey, maybe a little bit what it's like to write a book like this as an African American about African Americans? I think in a space a lot of times that maybe there's not a lot of that. There's just not. Would you talk to us just a little bit about that journey and what it means to you to like be receiving some recognition for it now?
Well, with A Long Time Comin, I really believe it's a story for everyone. And so, but for the longest time, I really, it just seems like the audience or the publishing industry really, felt that it was just one, audience or readers that would be interested in the story, and not enough people would be interested, I guess, to sell it. I suppose. But it's a story that I think people can identify with, no matter what color. But it does speak to my experience. It does speak to who I am, and my family and my culture, and the stories and our faith. And I wanted people to be able to connect with it. I believe that people would connect with it if I could get the opportunity. But it was just frustrating for a while. But I think, a lot of writers have met with rejection for whatever reason. They're always, is there a market for a story for women who, I don't know, who go grocery shop? There's just, there's a reason that, that publishers are looking for something. Will it sell? Is there an audience? And for a long time, I just felt that they didn't want me, but I had to stay true to, who I am. I mean, I can't cover who I am, and what I feel like God led me to say. And finally, I met with Cynthia Rux, Asian, and we connected over the story. And then with Jan Staub at Tyndale. And it's funny, when I talked with Jan at the very beginning, she said it reminded her, of a family member, and I won't say who it was, and Granny B. And so she loved the story, and that it blesses me, because that's what I wanted to do. Like, I really wanted readers to see themselves in the story. Whatever you look like, or whatever your family looks like, maybe you don't have a grandmother, maybe you don't have children, but the story of finding, feeling that love from the Lord, and letting go of bitterness and sorrow and those things that, hurt your connections with family or friends. And I just really felt like that was universal. So, but it is tough in this industry. I've heard so many different stories about, editors or, I don't know, marketing teams who want you to change, this, make it less ethnic or more, or this or that. And so often we're trying to stay true to who we are, and you don't know what advice to take. It's just hard to know what to do, but to stay true to who you are in your story.
What do you think? I think when the author has authentic experience with God, and creates characters through that experience that have authentic experience with God, imperfect authentic experience, right? That people can pick that up because God transcends other things, right? Yeah. So, and I saw that in your book, all over that book. I could feel just the authentic. I think it's very brave when you allow your characters to struggle and be imperfect, or doubt, or question, or argue, or, whatever. And I just thought I loved the characters in their imperfection. I really did. I thought it was really well done and beautiful. So, So talk to us just a little bit about the heart of the book, and kind of what made you passionate about writing it. I know you talked about that just a little bit already, but just in general, where does it come from inside you, and why? Because it's it's a long time coming, this book, right? Yeah. So what makes you stick with it? You have to believe deeply in it. Yeah.
Well, I wrote it. It's funny. The original title was Women and Children First, and my husband hated that, the title for years. So
that's why we call it a working title, right? Yeah.
But then a few years ago, this new title from the story, it was obviously time for it to get published. And that's why, the Lord had this title come, and, it was time for it to move forward. But I really wanted to write about the strong women in my family. And I guess that's why I had that title originally. I wanted to write about, my grandmothers raised children on their own. Their husbands, left them. And so they had these large families, and they, some of them were sick, and just all the different things that had, gone on. And I admired them so much for being able to, persevere and raise, my dad and raise my mom, and for them to go on and have their families and pass on their faith and pass on, what they believed in to their children, and just carry on that history. And so that's what inspired it. Just, stories that I had heard, and my love for them. And I realized that, I didn't treasure that time with them as much as I should have. As a kid, I cried when I had to go to my grandmother's house. I wanted to stay at home, or, I didn't want to stay the night, or, they didn't cook the way I wanted to cook. I didn't treasure it when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I really had my oldest son, and I was holding him, and I realized, what I had. And so I wanted to honor them, and I hope I'm honoring them with this story. And it's not, it's totally, fiction, but just the character of Granny B, it's bound up, in their character and in their life. And so that's what I want to do, to honor them by writing it and by sharing it. So to have it accepted by readers, it's just such a blessing, because it's like they're accepting, them, and honoring my grandmothers in that way. So
I didn't know if I liked her at first.
I know.
I hear that. It hurts me so when I have one of my best friends. She's like, for the longest time, she's like, I don't like Granny B. And I'm like, oh, no.
She seems so mean and crusty and disgruntled. And I'll tell you, Robin, first I was reading it, and I was about halfway through it. I'm like, gosh, I really want to like Granny B, but she's just driving me insane. And so I picked up the audiobook. I got on an audio, and I listened to it, and hearing it in someone else's voice, I thought she was hilarious, and I loved her.
Okay.
And it just, I don't know what it was about that, but it changed it for me. So I'm like, I really want to like this lady, but my word.
But
I don't know if that's fair, but
she didn't care. Like that's the thing that I admire about her. She's like, well, I am who I am.
Yes.
And I didn't want you to come over anyway, but I want you to. But she's just so confident in just who she is.
I think that's what changed in me. I think the reason that I struggled with her at first, because I didn't struggle to keep reading, don't get me wrong. I just was like, wait, I kept thinking, when's this girl going to come around, this old lady? And the reality was, it's when am I going to come around? Because there's something very real in her that I really admire, because I don't have the guts to say, I didn't want you to come over anyway. What are you doing here? Or she just was so straight in her talk, but in a way, she was straight with her family, especially when she knew her time was, she was ill. She was so straight with them, I think, because she's like, I have important things to tell you because I love you, but it was expressed differently maybe than, it wasn't gentle and sweet, that she didn't love that way. That's not how she loved. Yeah. Yeah.
I may be off, but I always, from the beginning, got a sense of unsettled peace. She didn't have a full sense of peace about her at Granny B. And so I was so glad to see, anyway.
No spoilers.
No, I won't be spoilers. But
you were glad when the spaceship came down and took her, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
No, but there was a sense, and all the uncovering and life that happened to her, and all that, and as you get to know her a little better, you can't blame her,
and wanting to spare the people that she loved in her family some of what, can you learn this because I know it, not because you have to do it the hard way like I did some of this, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly. And to raise them in a raise them up well, basically. Without spoiling it, with Elizabeth spoke to her, Evelyn, at the end, and kind of explained, a little bit. It was lovely, the way she said, no, she was good.
Yes.
Like,
we're trying.
I know.
That's right. So I would put this back on Robin. So this is one thing that you've written, that your novel shows readers that living by faith doesn't mean we'll avoid pain. It illustrates how we address that pain, right? And so talk to us a little bit more about how you hope that your writing helps us makes that distinction, like between, we think like maybe a relationship with Jesus helps us avoid pain, but the reality is it teaches us how to deal with it, right? Talk to us a little bit about about your hope in that, would you?
Well, I think, as believers, we know that we face the same problems, we face the same issues, we have the same weaknesses as unbelievers, as the world, and that's a part of being in the world. And Jesus came and he suffered, and he wasn't above suffering. So how are we to expect to be without suffering? But then the suffering that brings about character, and it brings about hope in the end. So what I wanted to show that, though, as believers, even though we face those same struggles, there's a difference in how we handle them and who we go to solve those problems and who we rely on to relieve that suffering, and how we can still find hope even in those problems. And so that's what I hope for the story with Granny B, that her life, she didn't live in this grand house, and she didn't, have, abundance of money, or even, a husband there with her all the time to help, but she had God. And so I wanted to, encourage, someone that, our life, it may not look beautiful, but, it is. I mean, there is beauty in it. And Granny B didn't see it, right? She didn't see it throughout her life. She didn't see what the gifts, I know that's another question, but she didn't see all of that around her necessarily. But my hope was that she would come to see it, and that readers would see it, for her. And I hope that, as believers, that we can find that hope in the suffering, through the suffering. And I hope with publishers, and I know there are, lots of books, or I don't know, with the industry, not to present this, this wrong idea, I guess, of a perfect life, for Christians. And because that's not so,
Right.
It's not relatable, and it's not believable. And so I don't want to mislead, people. I don't want, but I don't want you to think that, oh, this is just a sad, depressing book, or that, we have a sad, depressing life, as believers, but just real, but just that we can turn to our very real God to help us. So
I wrote that down, what you just said. It may not look beautiful, but it is. And as someone, one of my biggest weaknesses when it comes to my spiritual walk is battling perfectionism.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We're friends now. And so, and I struggle sometimes to, there's a verse in Habakkuk that talks about, though these fields are empty and the fig trees do not bud, and yet I will praise the Lord. Right. And the Lord convicts me consistently about the fact that, most of your fields have produce and most of your pens, but you stare at the ones that are empty, in this search for perfectionism, in your life. And that's something that he corrects me on with some frequency, unfortunately, because I guess I'm a slow learner. I've made progress, but I'm slow. But I love that the idea that, it may not look beautiful, but it is. And will we look at the parts in our lives that are beautiful, that hold beauty, or will we stare at the empty fields? Right. And I think that's a decision beautiful. That we all make every day. And I appreciate you bringing that to our attention tonight, for sure.
I'm gonna have to write down some of that, because that's a great title. I heard a great title for a book.
Oh, you're welcome.
Back and watch the recording.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think, go ahead, Maria. Yeah, go ahead.
Granny B is, I think that well, maybe you don't overlook because you're part of the legacy, but the legacy she leaves in her family. I think we talked about that earlier, about her upbringing of her children, but there's a faith thread of legacy that she left with each of her children, and I think that is not to be dismissed either, because that's an important piece in raising our children, praying for them, and then when we're gone, there's still a piece of us that faith seed that we planted, and the prayers that we lifted up for them, as parents and grandparents and whatnot, grandparents before us,
Right.
So that's a neat thread too.
And in her love for them, she let them go in different ways, I think. I mean, I think initially, I think I'm not giving anything away. Initially, I thought, gosh, these people don't have close relationships, so there's all this like maybe discord or, something. But the reality was, I think she wanted them to find what they were looking for in different ways. And she like honored that they wanted to leave and find something different. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think for them, I hope there's, hope for them, and that when she's gone, they're not spread, to the 6 or 7 winds. It's still, they're still connected. They still love each other, and
yes,
they're still going to battle. They are the same without having her there. I think that was important.
Yes.
For them to look to God and not to a person to hold them together. Because if she wouldn't have been able to raise a family.
Right. Yeah. Oh my word. I just have to ask, okay, when they were all together in the book, it was just hilarious. And so is that what your family is like? I just have to ask. You complete the fifth, I guess. Because I'm like, where does this come from? Because that is hilarious. I have a little family, so I don't have any experience like that, but when they're just all talking and they've all got their different agendas, I'm like, this is hilarious. Yeah.
Probably more fun for you than me.
Assuredly. One of the themes that I found anyway, I think we found in the story, was just this ability to acknowledge our background and our upbringing, even if it's challenging. And so you talked about what it means, good and bad, to tote around our history. Will you talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yeah, just what can happen to us. You talked about toting around our history. So what do you think happens to us, good or bad, as we kind of really acknowledge our upbringing, our background, and, as you say, tote around our history?
Well, there's a difference between, I guess, the bitterness that can come from, holding on to all the negative and the resentfulness. And then, you think about like with the Israelites, and I was thinking about how like Peter or even the Old Testament, how when they needed to be encouraged, they look back and they remind each other, this is how God helped us. This is how God led us out of Egypt. This is how he took us, through, the Red Sea, and how he held back the water. Like they'd have to remind themselves of their history. And that's carrying it around. Think about carrying around the Ark of the Covenant and, all of that. That's a way to do it, rather than carrying it like on your back as a burden, your problems and what someone's done to you. And I think for a long time, right, that's what Granny B was doing, was carrying the bitterness of her past rather than the lessons from the past. So there's a way, you think about how our enemy wants to twist what's good into what's bad. And so remembering, what's our history is different from resenting it. And that's what we have to do as believers and as people, in order to go forward with hope, is to use our history as stepping stones, rather than a burden.
I think that's so beautiful. Our family has, so we have this tradition, June 20th in our house, we call it Celebrate Day. Bless you. In 2010, our family was in a head-on collision and we were very seriously injured. And there was this season of just really, it was a very low season in a lot of ways, but there was also this tremendous season of experiencing God's faithfulness in a variety of ways. And so the day of the car accident, we just kind of, in our family, we label it Celebrate Day, and we try to do something to remember. And this past year was 10 years. And I kind of felt like maybe I should quit doing this and quit posting something about it, or, whatever, that like the things that I was kind of doing. And I really felt kind of like what you were saying, where the Lord was like, it depends on why you're doing it. Right. It depends on because this is an important thing for your family. This is an important time where you experienced me, where you got to know me deeper. And so there's something about celebrating, if you will, celebrating this and reminding yourself and others of my faithfulness that is present in your life, that is good and right. But there's also a way to do it where you're just like, inviting more drama or attention. Yeah. So what is the, and I hear that you saying that with our, we can, I wrote that down when you said our enemy wants to twist what's good into something that's bad. Right. So how do we look back on our upbringing or our past, the good and the bad in it, and celebrate? I love that song by Bethel. I think it's Bethel right now. Isn't it Goodness of God, that just all my life you've been faithful? And can we share that? Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And even like
Go ahead, Robin.
No, I could just look back at how long I can say, how long it took me, to get published. But
sure.
But no, during that time, we were homeschooling. I was having children, we were moving, we were doing so many wonderful things that was for that time. And not that it was a time of no, or it was a time of rejection, or it was, gosh, it just took forever, or no, it was, a readiness, a preparation time.
Yes.
And, being in that moment. And so, and now to be able to go, gosh, Lord, look what you've done, through all of this, and look how you've carried us and carried me. And, that's how I look at this time. For a long time, I was like, oh my gosh, it's taking forever. But no, it's just been, God has been good. God is good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Go ahead, Maria. What were you going to say or ask? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, the character Evelyn comes to mind when we're talking about that. with I like that you said, the imperfections of what we face in life, and how we carry that around. Hopefully that'll,
Yeah. So let's talk about gifts. You mentioned that just a little bit earlier. You said the Granny Bee did not always recognize the gifts in her life. She didn't see some of the things in her life as positives, or earlier in her life, that then later in her life she recognized were. I think that's so true for all of us. What are just some ways that you think that maybe Granny Bee became more observant of the gifts, and maybe ways that all of us can be more able to receive the gifts for what they are?
Well, I think
because you always think all of your 7 children are gifts every day, right?
All the time.
Every day. They're precious gifts from the Lord above. I know this is true about you.
I was just thanking him this morning
for all the gifts you've given me, Lord.
Yes. Well, I think, when Evelyn happened across, that box, Granny Bee wasn't feeling very thankful at that moment. She wasn't blessing her. She might have been blessing her out, but she wasn't blessing her granddaughter, at that moment. But I think later, perhaps, I guess for those I don't want to, it may have been considered a gift, that discovery, that peskiness of her granddaughter, that relationship, because that's, her time with Evelyn is, she helped form, Evelyn's personality and her own, she could see herself in her, and that's a gift, that's another gift. I don't think she realized it was kind of a bothersome thing at one time, but I think her relationship, she was able to see, what an opportunity it was for her to, be with her granddaughter during that time. And her children, as you know, like what we all go through that, like we look at them, and especially for, at-home moms, who are working at home, and sometimes we see our children as interruptions, or for things that we need to do that may be more important, and we think they're more important at the time, rather than pouring into them and letting them see us, working, and seeing us pressing, and taking them, for them to see us, to stop and take the time with them. That's a gift. That's opportunities that we often, I've seen myself kind of let go by, because I'm thinking, oh, I have to have this deadline, or I have this to do. And so just that gift of time, that we have. I think this year has been a gift in many ways, unexpected, and we may not see, that it's a gift even right now, but it is in many ways. So, there's that illness.
There's so many good things that can come even from the bad things. When you're talking about children, I was thinking, one of my children, I only have 2, but one of them, we struggle in our relationship. We just bat heads and we struggle, and he's tough for me sometimes. And I have 2 approaches. There are days that I'm like, I just need to figure out how to make him do what I want him to do. Right. That's one approach. And then I have a more gentler approach where I'm like, he is teaching me so much about myself and about my relationship with God. And the reason he makes you so crazy is he calls out things that need to be, broken down in you. You know what I mean? And so, and depending on how I approach it, it's in my heart, it's radically different, when I'm different. And even though I know that, I still approach it the not so good way sometimes. I mean, it's
you're a gift to him too,
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm going to try to tell him that. I am your gift, child. I do every once in a while say, the Lord chose us to be in this together. That's so you're just talk to him if you don't like it. Yes.
Enough to give to each other. So.
That's right. So
my oldest son, once we first relocated to New Jersey, we were in this apartment, and I cried every day, like, nothing against New Jersey, but I just cried every day, and I missed, home, and I just, I miss people. And one day when he was 10, and he came to me and he said, well, what are you crying about now? What are you crying about now, Mom? It's like, oh, wow. It was just a mirror for me, and so that's how he always, Nicholas is just one to kind of, he presents a different way of looking at things, and it catches me off guard and makes me look at myself and think, okay, I am being judgmental, or I am being whiny, or I am being, so yes, each child presents a challenge and each child presents, a blessing. So it's just trying to, appreciate both, and kind of grow from both.
Was there one of Granny B's children that you felt closer to than the others by any chance? Just that you felt like you knew better or were closer with?
Well, I loved, little Ed. Like I
almost said.
I almost felt like he could have his own, book in a way. Just
I think they all could. We would like them all to have their own books, but so get to work. No.
My husband sometimes calls me Ruthina, which I don't necessarily appreciate.
Oh.
I'm getting up on my little platform and putting my little sermon together.
And then you tell him you don't get to read my books anymore.
But but I don't know. I loved that he, had this, turnaround, and that we didn't necessarily to witness it, right? But to see how he was as a kid. And I think Granny B had this he's a special place in her heart as well, and some of the advice that she gave him and what she wanted for him. And so, I liked him. I like all of them, but
of course. Yeah. Did you ladies, I'll put you on the spot. Did you ladies have like one of the children that you connected with more than the others, or just curious? I didn't ask you ahead of time. No, they're like, don't ask me hard questions on the spot.
I liked Elizabeth taking care of all of her kids, and she was, in their lives, and I really liked her. I liked her a lot. I thought Ruthina was hilarious.
Yeah. Yes.
And bless her husband's heart.
Right.
Now you know how to pray for my husband, right?
So just tell us a little bit. I know that it's probably so many things, but what's something or a couple of some things that God just taught you during this journey of writing this book? Anything about God, about himself, about yourself? What are some things you learned as you worked on this project?
One was letting go of pain, letting go of past hurts, and not clinging to them, learning from them. We've talked about as far as the burden and learning from history. That was a big one, for me, because I can hold on, to hurts, and they hold you back. I mean, they hurt relationships, mainly the one with the Lord, and, expecting, with Granny B, like she clung to her faith, but I don't know that it gave her much hope, so wanting to not look for this other shoe, to drop, or, that's in my life. I kind of do that. Like, I think I'm going to learn from the negative. And so that was big, for me. Also just patience and trusting God's timing. That's, that's hard for me. Like, I just, I want it to happen when I want it and how it should look, how I think it should look. And, I'm still learning, but that God has a wonderful plan, and it will not look anything like I expect it to look. I mean, nothing like it, we expected kids, and we expected, just all kinds of things. And but it's so much more wonderful, so I'm grateful that they're higher and better and bigger than I am. So,
I always say that this is my attitude with God. Sometimes I'm like, just show us where we're going and I can get us there, know? And he's like, he's like, sweetheart, you don't need to know where we're going. You need to know the next step, but I'm like, oh, that's so frustrating, because I think if you just show me, I'll get us. I'm smart, and he's like, no, I've got things to teach you on the way.
And that relationship, like, our relationship with our family, with our friends, that those things are super important. Yes, our relationship with God, but you're going to see that relationship with God in the people that you can see every day. And I think some of us are so important, focused on looking up, but not around to see the love
Yeah.
the love of God, and pouring that into the people who you have with you. So that's important.
We were just in 2 Peter 1:3 earlier. We do a Bible study at 6 on Tuesday nights, and we were talking about the knowledge of God, and the commentary was talking about how the knowledge of God, that deep, intimate knowing of God, comes both from one-on-one time with Him, but also from time in community.
Yes.
And I think that's what I think of that when you're saying that, because He reveals Himself to us so differently, different things about Himself, depending on, how whether He's revealing to our hearts or through other people to our hearts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you have a new book coming out soon. Is this true?
Do.
Yes. It's not out. Yeah. We want to hear what's happening next.
I got my advanced copies today. I'm so super excited.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it
Yay.
was some art. So I'm just I feel bad. I just posted something today about it, because I've been so focused on A Long Time Comin, and I have a third book that I'm working on, and that this book baby has been just sitting in the corner going, I'm over here. It's like children 2 through 6 don't get that attention.
Right.
7 do,
You're my second baby. You don't get that. It's not the same. No. When is it available? Is it available for pre-order now?
It's released. You can pre-order now.
Okay.
But yes, it comes out in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Maria wants to know, we're confused if it's a series or not a series.
Is it a sequel?
Part of a series, but not
Okay.
a sequel. I think of it as part of a series. It's set in the same area of Spring Hope, Mount Laurel. You'll see characters from the first book.
Okay.
I was going to ask, will we see any characters? Yeah, will we see? Yeah.
And some of this in food, you'll see some of that. And you'll see some people who were mentioned, if you're paying attention, in A Long Time Comin. This year.
Love that.
So,
good.
It's a story just, about, again, this young woman who is seeking knowledge of who she is, and she's looking for it in her relationships, and she's looking for it, for her parents to tell her who she is. But, really, for all of us, we need to look to God to tell us who you are.
Yeah.
And to believe it when He says it. When He says, I love you and I've forgiven you, to believe it. And that's what Maxine has to learn. So.
And the title of the book is Want No More. Is that?
Till I Want No More.
Till I Want No More. Till I Want No More. February. It's going to be out in February. Available for pre-order now. And I always like to throw this question out. What are you? I know. It's not too hard. What are you watching, listening to, reading, studying, anything like that that's just right now connecting you to God?
Wow.
Is that a hard question?
It is.
If you're an author, you've got books on your nightstand. I know you do.
They're dusty. I can't.
That's okay.
They're dusty. But really, right now, I'm studying the Book of John with my CBS class.
Awesome.
And it has been amazing. You think, okay, I've read the Gospel of John.
I know.
But it is just, it's so good. And, and what's great is that my kids are also, they each have a class, and we're all, we're studying it virtually. But because we're all studying the same thing, and all the CBS classes everywhere, they're studying the same thing. My daughter, my 11-year-old today, she was talking about how in John 8, how, Jesus was telling them the truth, and just that we can have these discussions together and on their level, on my level. And so that's been wonderful. So we've been studying that. I'm also reading a book by T.I. Lowe. I'm reading it for endorsement, and it's coming out next year. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so those are the things I'm reading right now, as well as working on my third book. I have a lot of books that, in my pile right now that we finished school on Friday, and then they have 3 books a piece that they have to choose to read over the next few weeks for Christmas break. And then I'll be able to read on my own as well as break, because I do have to catch up. So,
every child reads 3 books over break?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They'll probably read more. They're readers,
Yeah.
but they have to read something that's historical, something that's for fun, and then something also that's literary. So that way I won't feel so guilty about taking 3 weeks off. I can pretend.
Yeah. No, I love
they don't
that.
know they have to write something at the end, but I won't tell them that.
Okay, we won't tell them either.
Okay. I love that. Wow.
What's your favorite and least favorite subject to teach to your kids, since you do all that too? Do you have those?
Well,
I'm just quizzing you now.
Well, right now, I love, the literary part, I guess.
Yeah.
My oldest two and I, they're both in high school, and we're reading The Tempest right now together, and just the discussions that we have.
Yeah.
We always, tie it back to the Lord, or we tie it to some other part of history. We do lots of unit studies. So, we tie it to history, we tie it to English, all those things.
Yeah.
I don't like teaching science.
Okay. I wouldn't either. Yeah.
So I try to farm that out. I love math, so, we do that. So we do lots of things together, but science is not my favorite.
Yeah, I would think that would be one of the real hard things about homeschooling. I mean, just the little bit that I've homeschooled just because of the virus and, being remote learning and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, whoo, real quick. There are some that are much more in your sort of like ability than others, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So much available. Like, it's just amazing how much is available.
Yeah.
For resources and how you can learn just in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And we've always just believed if you teach them the basics, the foundation, teach them how to fish. So if they can read and comprehend and can do critical thinking, then they can apply that to.
They'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll be okay. Yeah. Yeah. This has been such a delight. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I'm fine.
I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with us this evening. We have loved your book, obviously. A Long Time Comin, and the next one is Till I Want No More.
Till I Want No More.
And Robin, where can we find and follow you? Just where do you hang out on social media? All that kind of good stuff. Tell us.
Well, at Robin W. Pearson, really everywhere, Twitter or Instagram, Facebook. I have a Facebook author page. And you can also find the book in wherever books are sold, online, or, on Amazon, or through Baker Book House, your local independent booksellers. Also at Park Road here in Charlotte, you can order, and they have signed copies. So that's, you can order online and, request a signed copy. So that's fun. But that's where you can find me. Or if you just want to stop by and find me, I'm in my sunroom on the sofa.
Studying the book of John and trying to figure out how to not do the science lesson.
That's me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again. It's just been wonderful talking to you. I hope that you'll come back and visit with us when your next book comes out. We would love to talk to you about the next one. If your schedule would allow, we would love it. So
thank you so much.
Yes. And thanks for all of you for watching and or listening. And until next time, we will say goodnight and peace. I have two favorite takeaways from this rich conversation. The first is, it may not look beautiful, but it is. And that is something that speaks directly to my heart, that at times feels overwhelmed by the need to make everything perfect. And the second is, our enemy wants to twist what's good into something bad. And I pray this: help me, Lord, to be diligent in seeking the good in all things. You promise me you are always there, and you promise me that you are good. And that means good is always somewhere in everything. I encourage you to get your own copy of Robin's award-winning debut novel, A Long Time Comin. I'm an all-in fan, and I can't wait to read more from her and talk with her again soon. Thank you so much for listening. I pray that wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.